The last thing I want to do is just change this into standard form. Change the equation into standard form. It's another way to write an equation. It's not even close to as effective and useful as this. But it is used though. So they will use lines and when I say they, I mean the math folk will sometimes write a line like this. The key is that here, so here you have y and an x, and here you have ax plus by plus c. You still have your y. You still have your x, okay, and then these a's and b's and c's are different. So it's another way to write it. You don't get the info that you get from this. One thing I do want to point out is that there is no exponent on this x because and same as this, because these are all order 1 equations. They have a order of 1, which means that they don't have a squared or a cubed or whatever. They just have x to the power of 1 really, and that means when you graph them, they have the same first differences, blah, 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 all the stuff we looked at, the same slope, and they form a straight line. I shouldn't say blah, blah, blah. I should say et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, another way to write this in standard form is we always have integers. So if you find yourself with this as your equation, that's no good. We don't want fractions here. Okay, so you can get rid of those. If they come up, I can show you, but it's not a big deal. And the other thing is this, we can't have this. It says A and B cannot be 0. A is always positive, so if it's not positive, what you can just do is make it positive. And what you're going to do with that is, if that is a negative, to make it positive, you'd multiply this whole side by -1, and then you multiply this by -1. It's a little trick, kind of. And 0 times -1 is still 0. This times -1 is plus 2x minus 3y plus 2y. So you would change every single sign if that happens. Okay, so be careful on that. If you ever have x being the number in front of x being negative, you can change the sign, but you have to change the sign on every single term here. Okay. So what you're going to do here is, if you have an equation, all you're going to do is bring everything on the same side. Okay. And what you want to do is bring it on the side where x is positive. It just makes your life easier. So in this case here, I have 2x on this side, 2x minus 3. I might as well bring the y over here and then just rearrange it. Okay. So I didn't do that in this example here, but if you do that, you end up with 2x minus 3 plus y. Nope, sorry, minus y, because you bring the y over. And then if you rearrange it, you end up with this. So you always have something x, something y, and then a number, and this is set to 0. Okay. The reason this is 0 is because when you bring something, if you bring everything off from this side over to the other side, what you've left is 0 on this side. Okay. So if I subtract y from this side, bring it on this side, make it negative y over here, what I leave is nothing, which is represented by the 0. If you don't do this, like I just said earlier, if you moved it to the wrong side, okay, and I don't really mean the wrong side, but if you did, by accident, move it to the side where x is positive. Actually, I messed this up. This is all wrong. This is right, okay? You want to have the x first, okay? So here I have this 9x. I'm going to bring this over here. 9x brought over to this side. Y stays where it is, and then the 6 becomes plus 6 equals 0. If you brought this over to the wrong side, let's say I brought everything over here and I ended up with this, minus 9x minus 6 minus y. Well, first of all, put the x first, then the y, and then the constant, and then again that's equal to 0. Multiply everything by -1 and change all the signs here. Okay, so that's how you do that. The x's come over. If they are already in some sort of either y equals intercept, if they're in standard form or any other form, you could rearrange them into y equals mx plus b form by just moving everything on the right side, on the way it should be. Okay, so here I have this here, minus x plus 2y equals -8. I bring the x's on one side and the constant, and I end up with 2y plus x minus 8. And then what happens is, in this case, when you get rid of this 2 by dividing by 2 on each side, this here I put not good, and it isn't good because I don't want this divide by 2. what you're going to, because that doesn't give me the slope and the intercept, right? That gives me a weirdness. That's kind of a little bit strange. What you're going to do is rewrite this as 1/2 x. So there's like a 1 here, right? So it's 1/2, 1 over 2. And then here it's -8 over 2, which is -4. All right, so when you have that sort of thing, you want to make sure that you don't leave it as a weird, like a big fraction. You want the fractions to be allow us to find out the slope and the intercept. Okay, so that's about that. Let me just rearrange this one with you here. Okay, so at the end I want y equals mx plus b. Remember, we should know what we're trying to do here. Because the y is negative here, I'm going to bring that over to this side to make it positive. So that leaves me 6x minus 15 equals 3y. If you'd brought the 6x over and the 15 over it, you'd be fine, but then you'd have a negative you have to deal with later. And then here I'm going to divide by 3, but I'm not going to do that, okay? Because if I do that, that's just going to be a weird thing. So what I'll do is 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. It's negative, and there's my equation. You don't have to rewrite it the other way. You can leave it like this, but if you did rewrite it the other way, you end up with this. There's your slope, there's your intercept, and then you can plot that. Okay, hope that helped. Hope that made sense. Take care.